Welcome back to the Toolbox Podcast. We are live streaming today from New York on the Upper West Side and from North Atlanta. Where north?
It's a little suburban town called Lawrenceville. So it's like
Lawrenceville.
northeast Atlanta, like 30 minutes northeast.
Got it. I'm like looking at it on Google Maps right now because I used to live in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, so most of us, we say we are from Atlanta, but we're actually living outside of the perimeter.
Right, like in the suburbs and everything.
Yeah. That's
yeah,
right.
Lawrenceville. Okay, sweet. That's awesome. Well, just so everyone knows who the man on the screen is, this is, unless you already know, this is Edward's son, right? And Edward is from his Instagram channel and everything is at Edward Creates. Edward is a designer and content creator, and I'm really excited for this chat because you and I have both kind of just been like crossing paths digitally a lot, where it's like, oh, what? Like Edward's from Atlanta, or I just bought the exact same product, and like we both just quit our jobs this last month. Like you're a month ahead of me in quitting our jobs. So I was just really excited to bring you on so we could meet. We are meeting for the first time right here digitally.
Right.
So
I mean, it's a pleasure to be here. It's been a long time coming, I feel like.
yeah.
It's just like, it feels like we're just destined to like keep crossing paths forever. And a lot of your stuff like organically just popped up on my feed. Like I was like following you on Threads only, and then it like your videos kept coming up. So then I followed you on Instagram, and then it was just like, wait, you're quitting your job too? So it's great. I'm excited to chat.
That's so dope. Well, let's go back to Atlanta. So you're from Lawrenceville, Atlanta. How long have you lived in Atlanta? Born and raised?
So yeah, born and raised in Atlanta, pretty much around the same area. It's like within a 10-mile radius. It's like that's been my whole life, except I went to school at UGA, which is an hour away, and then came back. So that's where I've been my whole life.
That's sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, I only lived there for a short period of time. It was right before I moved to New York. I was there for almost a year, not even a full year.
Gotcha.
And it was to move out. I lived in Midtown, right down the street from like Ponce City Market.
Yeah.
And Piedmont Park and all that. Loved it. Loved the weather. It was amazing.
I also lived there. I lived in Midtown, like right next to the IKEA in Atlanta. I lived there for 8 months. I also could not last a full year in the city.
Is that was kind of like in the Atlantic City? I can't remember
Atlantic
what it's
Station,
called.
yeah.
Atlantic Station.
That's right. That was like 5 minutes from me.
That's so dope. Yeah. That's really fun. I miss Atlanta a lot. I went for a job but it was over COVID, and there was like promises of like, we're opening up the office again, and we need these creatives to come and be in the office, and then the office never opened.
Dang.
Why did you live in like the Midtown Atlantic Station area?
Oh, this is a crazy it's another life for me, really. So I was at UGA, I was graduating, and then I so desperately did not want to move back in with my parents. And so I like searched for jobs like crazy, like nonstop every spare moment I had. And then I got a job I think it was like in Buckhead or like within the perimeter of Atlanta. And I had a friend who also wanted to live within the actual Atlanta proper bounds. So I moved with him to Midtown because it was like a great new apartment and everything. So I moved there to be close to that job, but it was an insurance company, and I was like designing slide decks for their underwriters in PowerPoint, and it was a miserable job. And so I quit after 2 months, and then I couldn't last paying Atlanta rent, so I moved to Duluth, Lawrenceville area to save money.
That's amazing. What did you do for school? It was right after school?
Yeah, so in school I double majored marketing and advertising, but I really wanted to do music business. I wanted to work in the music industry, but they didn't have a major for that. So there was just a certificate. So I had to pick an actual proper major. So I thought I would do marketing in the music industry. So no exposure to advertising or anything, just like communications jobs, which is what this was. But I ended up designing presentations.
Where did the design come from? Did advertising and the marketing degrees, did they include any design, or did you do all that on the side?
Advertising, there was one class that taught me Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. In that class, professor told me, these tools come naturally to you. You should think about, pursuing this as a career. And I was like, whatever, I want to do music, And then afterwards, I was just like using those skills to make cover art for myself or for these other artists. And like, it was just like really to support music, you know? But then I ran out of all my money because the music industry, it's like you either make it big or you are barely surviving.
It's tough. Yeah.
And so I ran out of all my money, and then happened by chance to, through a random connection, get this job at the company I just left as a designer with no qualifications or anything. They just like took a chance on me. And that's how I learned everything I know about design and how I got into design in the first place.
Just your first job and just like at task by task, like, oh, I got to do this, got to make sure I learn this. And
Yeah. I mean, I guess it was my second job because the first job was the one I hated at the insurance company.
Right.
The second one, but this was my first like actual design job, you know. And then the guy actually told me, the founder told me, I'm not hiring you for your experience or your skills, hiring because of your work ethic and your desire to learn. And then of course I was paid below industry average, and I was just like happy to take. I was like, salary, unheard of in the music industry. And so I took that, and then I learned everything, like just being in the software all day, being the only, it was a 3-person agency, including me.
And you're the only designer.
Yeah, I was the only designer. So I was really just like opening Google, watching tutorials all day, meeting all these. I remember the first day. I had to make these like social media graphics. The look was already made, just like social media graphics, like 8 of them. Took me all day, 8 hours to make like 6 graphics. And then at the end of the day, I asked my project manager, like, so like, how long did it take for the person before me to do this? And she was like, 30 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, so I like really took it seriously to like learn and like earn my spot. I really felt like grateful and humbled to be there. So, and I just kept that mindset and then just like learned a ton over the last 6.5 years.
Wow. That's tough being, especially like learning and being the only one, not having like another designer to like look over their shoulders. Did you ever get that later on? More mentorship or other designers to model after?
I did get a lot of mentorship outside of strictly graphic design. But like seeing my founder, like how he convinced clients of his, like every meeting going in, they would say like an idea, and then he'd be like, here's why that's not a good idea, and here's why my idea is better. And they would always agree at the end of the conversation. And like I learned a lot from that, and like the business side of things, and like that I think has brought me where I am today. But in terms of design, no, I just bought all the books. I just like I bought a bunch of courses. Like he let me take 1/5 of my time every week, like 10 hours every week to learn. So I would just be like self-guided. Let me take these courses. Let me buy these books. Let me read. Let me make graphics and all that stuff. And that's how I did it. And he was art directing and creative directing. So I learned a lot from his critique and everything, but never got another designer. I only had a junior designer later when I became, I guess I was always lead designer because I was the only designer.
Yeah. Lucky for that junior designer though, to
Yes.
come in and like soak up things. So that was the company you've been with for like the last 6-7 years?
Yes. Yep. That's the one. And that's the one that I left.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And music, how does music play a role in your life right now?
Music doesn't play a role in my life anymore, except that I enjoy it.
Like playing, like do you do instruments or like, you said you rap?
So yes, I used to rap. So like it was like since when I was like 13 or 14, it was like my dream to be a rapper, and I would constantly do that. Was like my passion. But once I got into design, I learned that my passion for design is like way higher than for music. I was just never exposed properly to design. So I never knew. But after I got into that, I was like, well, if I love this thing more, I'm just going to devote all of my time and attention to this other thing. And then music just kind of became like something I enjoy. It's like a hobby type of thing. But I'm not like writing songs anymore, performing. I just love what I do now so much more.
That's so cool. Anyone that's listening in the chat, if you have any questions as we're chatting, feel free. But otherwise, I'm probably going to be ignoring the chat a little bit because I'm just enjoying asking Edward all the questions and hearing more about your life. So that's dope. But yeah, I guess music plays a huge role in the videos you make. It's interesting to come from a diverse set of different mediums and then be able to combine them or to let that influence your design or
Yep.
different things. So what about video though? Has that been something you did when you were younger, or was that, when did you start really like diving into
Yeah.
that?
So video was also to support music.
Yeah.
I
Music
did.
videos and yeah.
Exactly. So I would do, there was this period where I did a music video every month. I was just like grinding, and I would have someone, film me, and then I would edit all the videos. So that's how I learned like how to video edit at first. Then I kind of like moved away from that. And then I didn't really dive back into it until I was burnt out at my job. So like being the only designer, I started, every year I have to pull all-nighters to certain busy seasons on the same projects. And then there was this one stretch of time where I was just like, I don't even like doing like design anymore. Like I just want to stop doing this. And like I'm miserable because I'm canceling all my social things, and I'm canceling my time with my wife, and like I don't have any time to do any of the things I want to do. I was like depressed and burnt out. And then I realized that I needed something that was not tied to money, that was a creative outlet. So something that no client was depending on me to be good at, that no one was paying me for, that didn't like have my livelihood on the line. And so I found photography and videography. So then I got a camera. I started taking pictures and making videos at like my church, and then I started doing it for myself, like getting deep into cinematography and all that stuff. And then I was like rejuvenated. I felt like I was alive again, and I was like free, and like I had room to play as a creative. And then I brought that back into my content, and we hired a junior designer at work, and then I was able to have a life again. And so yeah, that's where I dove into photography and videography a lot. And then when I started, there's a noticeable, if you look at my feed, there's like a noticeable jump in video quality at one point, like a few years ago.
I have to scroll back and see.
I used to just use my phone and then like record voiceovers on my phone and do everything in CapCut. But then when I started using an actual camera, that's when like I came back, and that was like at the end of me really diving into that, and then like healing from the burnout and all that.
I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, go for it.
I want to scroll through your Instagram a bit. Yeah, I've definitely noticed your production quality of all of your like most recent videos of like cinematography, different scenes, the editing, graphics. I shoot everything just on my phone, edit in CapCut right now. And it's been because I just like couldn't find a way to get back on my computer in my personal time. Be able to like
Wait,
doing it from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m.
all of your videos are shot on your phone?
Every single one.
They look amazing. You're like coloring them, or like
I'll add a little bit of color in CapCut and just like try to light things. But yeah, the last like 5 years
That's amazing.
I've been doing it all on the phone. There's been a couple YouTube videos here and there, but everything else, and most of my YouTube videos too, were all phone. So you did a lot of AI stuff when AI was starting to come out. Are these, and I wasn't going to just open up every single one, but are these a lot of like art explorations and designs, or were you showing like, oh, you're like, make AI art with me?
Yeah,
okay, so yeah, you've been doing like behind the scenes and process for like a while.
Yep, that's right. It was all when
That's so cool.
when Midjourney first came out. I kind of rode that wave, and the stuff exploded a lot.
That's amazing. This was the stuff that I thought was the most interesting era of like the styles and things. Like I have struggled to make some generations look like this aesthetic again, where it's like super janky and like has the like almost algorithmic look to
it. But it kind of like looks like a painting. But you like everything is too detailed and realistic now for you to like be able to accomplish that. I think you have to like actually manually choose the older model.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's true. You could use an older model and stuff like that. But yeah, it looked painterly, and there's definitely some nostalgia for that era where there was a lot of fear, but I feel like now there's just more fear and controversy and animosity, and it's just like such a hard part to kind of balance.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic right now. I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of hate comments on there on all those
Really?
videos. Yeah.
What about recent stuff like when you find a tool that you like or do a brand partnership with, Visual Electric or Flora? I think just came out. Some of
Yes.
these
Yeah,
newer,
I've been
really
seeing
really
Flora.
good tools.
Yeah, so it really depends. So like Visual Electric was so interesting because what happened was like, Smith and Diction made this Alma rebrand that was like amazing using Visual Electric. Same week, Pentagram releases a Midjourney driven rebrand of like a US government website or something. And like Pentagram gets completely flamed. Like and all of the posts about it, like in the comments, like people hating them so hard.
I remember seeing that. That was the government website you said, right?
Yeah.
That they did. Yeah.
And then Visual Electric or Smith and Diction, when their thing came out, there were a few people who were still like kind of disappointing to see Smith and Diction doing this, but then everyone else was kind of like, you know what? I'm okay with this. Or like this is actually great. So it's been really interesting. Like when I touched on that with Visual Electric, and then I specifically highlighted like there's going to be two things that people want to immediately jump on, which is how is the data being trained? Is it licensed content or not? If it's being stolen data sets, then people are going to be upset. And then if it's like lazy, like if it feels like you're trying to replace creatives just like cheaply, and Smith and Diction, they approached it as, this is the only possible way we can accomplish what the client wants at the scale that they wanted at. And secondly, they were using Visual Electric, which was, trained on licensed data. And so I touched on that, and then I positioned it as this is a tool that will help us, and I was comparing it to Midjourney results. I think all of those things worked together to make the response really positive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their positioning, it's like the first design image generator for designers, for creatives, not like to replace creatives.
Yeah.
I think that all protected me, but in the very beginning, like people weren't even thinking about it at all. It was just like there were no like conversations about it. It was like the first week Midjourney came out, I was like posting these things, and then people were like, "You didn't make this. Like this isn't like your art." And then some people will say, "You didn't let the AI do its thing. You put in too many words. Like this is what you think, not what the AI thinks." So it was like complete
a lot of
opposite.
opinions.
Yeah,
A lot of opinions. I remember the Pentagram one because it was like there was a lot of almost like iconography and maybe it was, I can't remember if it was illustrations or more like 3D looking. I think it was more illustrative stuff, right?
Yeah, I think it was more like brush strokes kind of
That's
style.
It was like faking it being like a brush stroked illustrations and different icons and stuff like that. And yeah, that's where it's like, oh, you clearly could have hired an illustrator or an artist to make a ton of these, and for the government's budget, like wouldn't that have been awesome for that person? But then I haven't seen the thing that Smith and Diction did with Visual Electric, using Visual Electric, but it's like, yeah, that's where I feel a lot better about it too. And a lot of my work is always like pre-execution. Like when I get to execution, we're hiring people or I'm making things from scratch, and everything's a lot of it's from scratch, but so much of my use of AI is like mock-ups that never see the light of day. And so it's been tricky for me to figure out like, okay, when can I talk about, or how should I talk about the AI tools that I'm using in a way that's like, I hire a lot of other people. Like I hire illustrators, or like the animators aren't getting replaced here, or, it's so tricky.
I think the other thing is that it's really hard for the general public to give the benefit of the doubt to a person the more successful they are. So like Pentagram, biggest design studio in the world. Like people are gonna be out to get you. They're gonna be like, I can't wait to find out how they're gonna fail, But like Smith and Diction, they got 4 people. They've been making excellent work for so many years. The guy is still working so much, like all the time. And he, using it to help another startup, it's like a completely different story than, the biggest design studio in the world helping the US government, So I think it's like, if you see this like kid, like a 12-year-old kid in India, like using AI to put together like a feature film, you're not going to be like, you could have hired
Yeah.
all of these creators.
Good on you. Good on
should
you
have
using the
waited,
tools. Yeah.
Or you had that. You should have saved up the money and hired it. You would have been like, yeah. Everybody's like, this is amazing. Like, it's possible now because AI is democratizing, like making things accessible to all of us. Just like how we all now have professional grade cameras and microphones. It's like the advancement in technology has made it so more people can have access to higher quality creative tools. But people will always be against the people who are at the top and have been at the top and scrutinizing them much more. So honestly, you saying you quit your job will probably help your case when you talk about using AI.
Yeah, I quit my job. I got to make money for my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to talk about quitting our jobs. I also wanted to say, you had mentioned you got a Synology NAS as well, or that you purchased one. Did you set it up and everything? Like,
yeah, I have set it up. Yep, I've set it up, but I haven't fully dove in and like moved my workflow over. But I've set it up and been like backing up personal stuff.
We are so like parallel with all of the different things that we've been doing. I just set up my NAS. I've dragged over like one folder, but I'm still like in such a go mode that I haven't had time to,
Dude,
get my
crazy.
workflow.
I'm exactly in literally the exact same place. That's wild.
That's so wild. Why did you go with the Synology NAS? And for anyone who doesn't know, a NAS is a network attached storage unit versus a DAS or DOS, direct attached storage unit. And that's as technical as I really am. I don't know anything else.
I've been using so like my storage is like a mess. It's like I have two SSDs like adhered to the back of my MacBook, and they're like always plugged in. And then I have a desktop attached storage, like a 12 terabyte drive thing. My footage though, it's like I'm constantly running out of space on the SSDs to edit off of. And then I'm constantly like in the middle of working on an edit, like a video, I have to stop for an hour to transfer all of my footage off of my SSD to the desktop attached storage is slow. It's a hard drive, it's not an SSD. And so just like me constantly running into that problem. And then also like first few months I got the desktop attached storage, the 12 terabytes, I filled it up to 6 terabytes.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was like, this is not going to work. So I'm going to, yeah, I ordered the thing, and then I got like the 8-bay one, and I'm going to like, I added some hard drives, but I still think I need, and also, when I quit my job, I was like, all of my clients' work is now not on my company server, but it's on my hard drives. These hard drives are old. I'm worried, like if I lose all of this stuff, like I'm actually screwed. So I just felt like I needed also to have redundancy and protect the data and all that stuff. So I felt like Synology was the most user-friendly way to do it.
Most user-friendly. It seems like they're like the Apple of sort of RAID setups. So yeah, like if you're unfamiliar with this kind of stuff, it's essentially having your own server. And that's what that's what for me felt so empowering getting it, was like, okay, I haven't had, well, for the last 7 years, I've always had the company server, the company Dropbox, or, whatever service they're using. And now I've just got like 10 to 15 hard drives that I've filled over the last 16 years of videos, and none of them are backed up anywhere. And so it just felt like that. And I feel like it would power your business, because you can also use it as a Google Drive or link, or if you're hiring an editor, give them access to things. Is that kind of in your mind as well?
Yeah, that was the other thing was efficiency. So like I wanted to build a B-roll library. And so I wanted to like have clips where I like pre-cut, trim them to the right selects, and then I color them, and then I just export them, keep them on a drive. And then if I ever have anyone editing for me, or if I'm editing for myself, I don't want to have to like, transfer, like pick all the right selects and then copy them to Dropbox, so that like I'm not meeting my Dropbox storage limit and everything. I just want to like copy the link to the B-roll folder, and then you can just go through and find everything you need. Or like for me, it was like efficiency without having to worry about breaking my workflow because I ran into the storage limit, which is like happening to me so much recently. So yeah, it's efficiency, cost, reliability, like not disappointing my clients by losing all their data. All that stuff. Yeah,
no, same thoughts. Even down to the B-roll library, because like I said, I've been doing it on my phone, and like I don't, all that just stays on my camera roll or it goes onto my Google Photos. And so I don't, it's been so hard to make a B-roll library. So now that I've kind of been, I've got time to do this a little bit more full time, I'm gonna start editing more videos on my desktop, Premiere, get a B-roll library, like start actually saving things that I can reuse and repurpose. And I know I'm faster on my computer when I am, you know, have everything set up, but it's always been like, got to open up Premiere, got to set up all my files. I only have like an hour and a half to do this before I need to go to bed. And so yeah, that's wild. We are thinking through a lot of the same kind of stuff. Let's chat about quitting though. So you were working at your job and started to feel the burnout. Obviously from working long hours and working at an agency can be intense, but was there anything else that like led to that burnout or that sort of itch to
Yeah, so I started thinking about it 2020. So that was like 5 years ago.
COVID was obviously making a lot of people think like, how can I switch things up?
Yeah, so for during COVID, I was like, oh, this like security is actually not secure. We're not just a creative agency, but we were a creative agency around live events. So we were especially impacted, and nobody was working in all of our departments except for me, because I was the one that didn't depend on events like graphic design. Everything else, live production, video production, like installations, all of those were in person. So I thought, okay, there's no security. I need to think about what I can do to like hedge my risk. And so I started posting, trying to build an audience. When I started posting, I started to realize that there is a way to make money as a content creator. And that's when I started to think about it, because, you know, working with clients is great, but I would love to do creative work without having to work with clients sometimes. And so, yeah, I started to think about that. And then over the next several years, I really started to think about it. And I was talking to a lot of people for advice, like people who had done this before me. I was talking to my wife. I was thinking about my goals, like all that stuff. And then I never felt like it was the right time until January 2024. I felt like everything was lining up. And then I decided I need to do it. Now is the time.
What kind of things lining up? Like
so
this stuff on the side and like starting to be able to see where the money was going to be able to come from, or...
Yeah. So for me, a big part of this journey is my faith. And so 2020, I was like praying a lot. I was fasting. I was asking all these people for advice. I felt in every single way possible that the answer was do not go. You need to stay. And so I did that even through burning out every year. I did the same things. I was like praying, fasting, asking people for advice. 24, everything switched. All of the things we're saying yes. So all the people I asked for advice were now saying, no, now is the time, bro. You got to do it. Like even the same people who were saying like, don't do it, you should stay. Like they were now saying you should go and you should do it.
All right, it's time now.
Yeah. And then I was like, there were a lot of spiritual things that happened that made me confident that was the right thing to do. And then I realized also like there's so many circumstantial things that are great for me to do this. Like I somehow built an audience of over 100,000 followers, and I'm getting brand deal inquiries regularly now. In 2024, I got like the biggest brand deal partnerships that I've ever gotten in my life. And I was like, oh, this could actually be like enough for me to live if I were to just double the amount of time I'm spending doing it. And also I felt like there were so many people that I could help, like so many people that I wanted to help that were starting things, that were my friends, that would reach out to me for help. And then I had a non-compete agreement with my last company. So I wasn't allowed to take them on as paid clients on the side. I had to bring them into my agency, but the agency rates were extremely expensive, you know? And so I couldn't work with my friends. Like I couldn't help people unless I did it for free. But if I did it for free, then I'm working a lot. I'm not like able to spend time with my wife and for what? Like it's not benefiting. It's like not sustainable. So all of those like issues came together. And then my wife, she wanted to have kids. And when we got married at 25, 30 now, when we got married at 25, she was like, I just want to have my first kid by 30. Well, she also just turned 30.
That's what I told my wife. I'm 30. I'm 31 now, just about to turn 32. And And I told her, I was like, I mean, I'm not putting an ultimatum on you or any sort of pressure, but just so you know, like, I just feel like I don't want to be too old as a dad. And she's like 3 years younger than me. So,
Gotcha.
so she didn't feel that 30 year
Yeah. Well,
sort of pressure.
my wife did give me an ultimatum, and she said,
She's like 30.
because like for me, it was like a big reason why I wasn't taking the leap was like I was afraid. I was insecure. I remember talking to a guy for advice, and he was saying like, Edward, we know, all of us know that you're great. You can do this. The only reason you're not doing it is because you're insecure.
Yeah.
Like when he said that to me, it made it clear to me that it's an obstacle that is just in my mind, you know? And then if that's the case, like a big reason that I wanted to wait to have kids is because I felt like I wanted to pursue this, like put all of my energy into this, and then if I have a kid, I want to not be like wrapped up in this completely. I want to be present, you know, for my family. And so I was like, well, I'm paralyzed by my fear, and I'm making my wife wait. Even like while I'm paralyzed from my fear, I'm not like taking action to try. I'm just making her wait forever, you know? And so she told me, either you need to do this right now, and I will wait longer for you past my already like generous deadline of 30 years old. I will wait for you to try this again and support you, or else we're gonna have kids now, and you're just gonna have to wait till they go to college, and then you can try again in 20 years, you know?
We'll need stability once they're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, well then this is the only time. It was like the push I needed. I feel it was like a good pressure for me to finally face my fears and then do the thing. That's all of that like led to me leaving.
And is that itch to like go and work for yourself? Obviously, like I know this because I had that same itch, and a lot of the voices in my head were telling me like, you're gonna regret not trying. Like if you don't do it now, it's like now or never.
Yeah.
But I feel like not everyone feels that or should feel that itch to work for themselves. But I don't really know where that comes from. And I don't know if you are a little more self-aware to know where like that desire to work for yourself comes from.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some level of insecurity from like childhood trauma that is definitely feeding into that like need to prove myself to the world and to myself. But I think another big thing is like I was feeling frustrated because I was really excited a lot by content, like making content in addition to design, like client work. But I didn't feel like at any job that I could get, I would be doing both. Like either you get a design job at an agency or you're a content creator. Like there's no in between job. So I felt that really the only way for me to do the things that excite me, I can only do it by myself. There's no route otherwise. That is a big motivating factor why I wanted to be my own boss. And then, you know, of course, like at work, I have to do jobs that I didn't pay. But now I can say like, I want to do this job and I'm going to do it. And going through the burnout process of like, oh my God, I'm working 80 hours this week, but I'm still only going to get paid for 40 hours. It's like, man, if I was just working for myself, like it would just be double the amount of money, you know? And then at least my wife could understand like, oh, it's benefiting us. Like it's benefiting our future. We're saving for our kids or something, you know? But I remember thinking to myself at one point when I was burnt out, I was like, I might as well go be a developer, because if I'm going to be miserable anyways, like at least I'll be miserable and not like poor. But yeah.
Yeah. Now that you're on your own, controlling what you say yes to and what you say no to, now you have no one to blame but yourself.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And you don't always, for some reason, like when you're working on things, it might not even be something you enjoy, but if you want to be doing it or if you said yes to it, I don't feel the burnout as quickly as I do when I'm just doing it for somebody else, like pouring, you know, not even 40 hours of work into somebody else's thing that they own. Feels like I will burn out faster than pouring 80 hours into something that I care about, and that's building my thing.
Yeah, you know, something I learned during that time is that I only feel burnt out when the things I have to do prevent me from doing the things I want to do. If it's not necessarily the amount of time I'm working or how hard I'm working, it's the fact that there are things that excite me that I can't do because I don't have time. If I if I then can replace all of the things I don't want to do with just things that I want to do, then I won't get burnt out because I will always be doing all the things I want to do. And of course, that doesn't mean just work related stuff. It's like, time with friends, family. That was a huge revelation moment for me too. That also made me consider more heavily, what would it be like if I left?
Yeah, 100%. I'm curious too about making content this whole time. Was there ever any awkwardness or anything that sort of held you back from making the kind of content you wanted to make or saying what you wanted to say because you were also employed?
Not because I was employed, but there was a lot of insecurity, like my first videos that blew up, I never showed my face. And then for the first 2 years, I was only posting graphics. I never showed my face or talked to camera or my voice or anything. There was a lot of hesitation there. And then there was like, when my AI videos blew up, I felt like I just had to do AI. Like I couldn't do anything else. I'm the AI guy now.
Your coworkers though were no one like was not supportive, or you weren't hesitant to tell people about social stuff?
It was a little weird. Sometimes it was a little weird. So for the most part, they were really supportive, very kind, like really generous towards me. But sometimes even clients would make comments like, oh, like it's great until Edward becomes like a YouTuber and then he leaves us. And then I was like, oh, that's a little weird. And I know that my boss had struggles with like, how do we, I don't like, he was still struggling to figure out how to deal with an employee who wanted to also have a personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like something that he and his like friends who were business owners were just like not sure because it's like a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also didn't know. So that was kind of difficult. Yeah, I still don't actually fully know how they felt about it, but here we are.
Here we are. I mean, if anything is starting to become more and more, just like welcomed and like understood that like people do that now. And I feel like every time I put stuff out, I'm always surprised, like, oh, my coworkers liked the video, or like my coworkers were, they're always way more supportive, or they just don't care more than you think, which is wild. So yeah, you quit beginning of January. I quit the end of January. We're like in the first 2 months of quitting. I saw that you're on a different podcast too, and you'd mentioned that you're not just going in full-time content. It's more you're kind of going full-time yourself, like full-time, all in on your thing, but you're kind of splitting it between freelance and content as well. What kind of like freelance stuff are you doing?
I'm doing mostly brand and web design. Yeah.
Awesome. And for like what kind of brands and what kind of clients? And
yeah, so for my if you go to my website, it says world-class design for Christian-led organizations. That's kind of the niche. It's that's the whole thing. And so it could be for-profit businesses, nonprofits, churches, individuals, personal brands. I've just found in my work with a lot of people in that space, they have found that it's not just that I'm an amazing designer, but it's also that I like personally understand the mission behind everything that they're doing. And that was also a scary decision, man. Like niching down and being so, I guess clear about who I work with. It's paid off a lot. It's been like amazing. But like when I made the decision, I was like, I don't want to be that guy. But like, I realized I am actually genuinely that guy personally. So, I should just lean into it. But
sounds smart. Yeah. I've looked at your website a lot because it's like, it's so clean. Like even the details of like the hover over the buttons and the little shine that goes around the side, and where was it? The About Me page. Like even the just different things have a gloss to them. I really like that style. Oh yeah, down here, like with your capabilities and things like that. What tools are your tools? Are you like a Figma designer, Illustrator, Photoshop? Like what are you using?
Yeah, so Adobe apps are my bread and butter. I'm like amazing at Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign. And then Framer. Framer is my main web tool. I will use Figma for more complicated designs that I need to design before I jump into building. But
A
yeah,
Framer lets you kind of like design while building pretty
Yeah.
well, right? I've never used Framer.
yeah, as long as you're like really well versed in how Framer works and how to set things up quickly, it's basically like knowing how to set things up in Photoshop or Illustrator. And so it's been, I mean, Framer has been a life-changing tool for me. I came from Squarespace. I never had like real design flexibility, but like having that is like life-changing.
That's where we differ in ways, because I'm not like a designer's designer. Like I don't even consider myself a designer in a lot of ways. So I am going from, my website's built in Webflow, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna shift to Squarespace now, because I
Gotcha.
don't do a lot of web design. There's just so much that I don't want to have to deal with and tinker with. So I'm like, I think I'm gonna go more templated.
Yeah,
now.
no, I definitely tinkered way too much on my website. Like it just like spend way too much time on it. And I think, you know, Squarespace for 99% of people, I still recommend Squarespace to most of my clients to this day. It's just going to be, it's just the easiest. They have found a great balance between design and customizability.
And if you're working with a client and you do recommend Squarespace or you recommend Framer, I've never done web design deliverables like that. Do you then like, are you designing it all in Squarespace and then getting them set up, and then like you can like hand things off to them, and then like Framer, can you hand over like the whole website to them, or do you need to like manage stuff for them at all?
Yeah, so basically you design the whole thing. Either they make an account and then they give you login access. Usually that's what happens. Or they'll add me as a contributor where I can make all the changes I want. And then when it's done, all they have to do is give me their login for like their hosting and everything. And then I set everything up, make it go live, and then I log out. And that's it. So it's pretty simple.
That's sweet. Well, tell me more about like freelance and like balancing it between content. Why do you want to still do freelance? Why not just only do content?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I personally get more fulfillment from helping people. And I feel like helping brands is less fulfilling than helping, you know, someone who's starting something that needs design or branding or a website. There is the digital product route, which is helping people. I should have done that earlier. I look at what you're doing and I'm like, very smart. I should definitely do that.
I haven't rolled out anything yet. That's one thing I wish I'd done sooner too, was like actually sell and tell people like, this is for sale. You can pay me for this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would love to do that. I know that's helping people as well. So I'm not sure. Like, I think part of me also is concerned that when I don't do freelance work, when I'm not doing actual design work, the resources that I make would probably be around like creative business, being a better designer and all that. If I'm not practicing, I feel like I'll become out of touch with my students, like the value that I'm giving, or my customers, right? My audience. So I feel like to some degree, I have to always be in there. I have to always be doing it. And have you heard of Dr. Mike? Dr. Mike is like one of the biggest doctor YouTubers. He's like makes great content.
No,
he
I
was
know
like
who he
named
is.
sexiest doctor of the year or something like. But basically, his philosophy around YouTube, he said there's two routes I could have went. I could have went like only be a doctor, personal doctor for these celebrities, like multimillionaires, billionaires, people who are trying to like extend their life, like doing experimental, like fringe stuff, right? You can make a ton of money doing that. And then you could go the other route where it's like you develop your own supplement or you develop your own whatever medical product, and then you promote that and then become rich. And then he was like, the problem is like the more successful you are, the more responsibility you have to spread good medical information and to provide better medical services to the people who really need it. And you actually have the most freedom to do that when you're at the top, right? And so he, to this day, still works as a doctor, and he works without getting paid from the clinic, from the practice. And he donates they pay him a salary, but he donates all of it back to them. And so he was saying like, number one, it like gets me to know what patients are thinking. And so it helps me make content that's more helpful for the general public. but also like I need to be doing it. Like the whole reason why I'm a doctor is to help people. You know, if I'm not there helping, providing quality care to people, then there's another doctor who's going to be doing it that's at a less level of quality, you know? And so for me, I was like really inspired by that. I felt like there are a lot of designers who work less with clients and then just start teaching design. But then it becomes like, well, you're an excellent designer. The work that you provide for people can change their lives, can change their business like forever. There's a lot of joy to be found in helping people that way. And you have the freedom to where you're like, hey, I'll do it for you, you know, for free or for a heavy discount because I'm making money from something else. So I want to do that. And then secondly, it's like I want to know what would be the most valuable by constantly working and testing those things with clients, right? So I can tell you, hey, this is working right now, and I can answer all your questions and like be a better, more valuable teacher. Also, I like getting free stuff. All of that stuff combined makes it hard for me to give up either side.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think that's really good advice too, especially when content is the content you're making and the videos you're making and your whole social media presence is tied to your profession. And it's like you start to wonder, like, does this person, this teacher or this authority know what they're talking about if they're not actually like in the weeds and doing it? And also, like, do you feel like freelance is more stable than content, brand deals, anything like that? Like, was that a part of your decision at all to quit and know that you could still do freelance?
So that was actually a big question mark for me because I had the non-compete.
Yeah,
I didn't
right.
know if I could get clients, actually. I had no idea. But the content was consistent. So I knew at least that. And then once I quit, I discovered they're both like really equal in consistency. So it's really hard, like even from a business perspective, it's hard for me to like evaluate which one would be better to choose because right now they're equal, like very equal.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because for me, it was different where I only started doing Instagram social stuff, like really taking it seriously this last summer. And when I started to see the content thing grow and brands start to reach out, I didn't know how consistent it would be.
Yeah.
But I knew from advertising agency freelance gigs, which is pretty different than like, you know, designer doing work and services for a company. Within the ad agency world, they do a lot of those contract gigs where they bring you in as just like a head count. And so I can freelance with an ad agency as an art director, and there's pretty standard day rates. And so just knowing what other creatives and ad agencies are doing, I was like, okay, that's my stable thing. If you know, 6 months, 2 months from now, I'm like really struggling, then I can just go 100% over to just focusing on freelance gigs. So
yeah,
that's interesting.
I was also
different.
scared. Yeah, I wanted to diversify. Like I was like, yeah, I want to have an
Diversify, for
option
sure.
if one of these things fails. So I really relate to that.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. What was your what's been your plan? Was it like, you know, what did you do to prepare? Like, were you thinking like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot for 3 months, 6 months? Did you do a bunch of like saving up money, lining up gigs and brand deals, or did you just like, all right, take the leap, let's go?
Yeah, I did a lot actually to prepare. I'm like a big scaredy cat. So I went above and beyond. My wife gave me the idea because I was telling her if I quit, you know, it requires a lot of self-discipline to be your own boss. You have to like, you know, have a schedule. You have to be able to motivate yourself and all that. And she was like, why don't you do this? My company was great. They required every person to take every year a consecutive 2-week vacation, like at some point in the year, continuous, because we had unlimited PTO, and then people like don't take PTO if you have unlimited PTO. So they like forced us.
That's awesome.
So she was like, okay,
That's really
take your
awesome.
2 weeks. Yeah, it was amazing. So she said, take your 2 weeks, pretend that it's your full-time job, right? Wake up every morning at whenever you want your work hours to be, and then do the work that you would want to be doing, right? So make content. And then I somehow at that point found a nonprofit that wanted some help with something. And then so I was like, okay, let me just like treat this as if it's a real client project, right? So I did that for 2 weeks. Dude, those 2 weeks, it was the best time of my life. I was like, I came alive. I was like, wow, is this what life could be like? And so I was so thrilled by that confirmed to me I shouldn't be afraid at all about my self-discipline or that I won't like it or anything. It confirmed that. And so I had a long list of all these fears, and I just like systematically addressed all of them. My biggest fear was, will my own lack of discipline stop me from succeeding, right? And that was eliminated when I did the trial. And then I was like, okay, will I be able to make enough money? Like people, I do a project, there's like net 90 sometimes. It's like crazy. So I was like, okay, I need to have a runway. I need to, every podcast I listen to, have emergency fund. So I did 6 months saved up of personal and business expenses added up together. So I did that. And then that took a while. I was like spreadsheets and everything.
Yeah. Like you said, you were planning January 2024. So you gave yourself kind of almost a year-ish of like, all right, we're going to plan for this.
Yeah. And then I wanted to maintain the relationships that I had at my company, knowing that they were at the time an 8-person agency. It would be really big if I left. So I gave them 90-day notice. And so we had a lot of time to prepare and everything. And like they gave me priorities that I had to complete before I left and all that. So there's that. And then I couldn't build up freelance design clients before I left, but I did my best to build up everything outside of that. So I even found a client that was like me editing social media videos for them for a podcast. Like that's not competing with my company because it's a different service. So I picked that up, and then I had content like brand deals, and then I tried my best to negotiate long-term brand deals that would go into the new year. So I had a base level of an income that I knew was going to come in. And then I took time to define, okay, what are my processes? How am I going to do proposals? What's my pricing sheet? Like all of the things that I know, and my portfolio. Like I knew all of these things. Once I quit, it's going to be so hard for me to find time to work on those things because they're not going to actively make me money. I just like made sure to do all of those things early. And then when I quit, then I could just focus on like money generating projects. So like all of those things, meeting up with people who have done it, asking for very specific advice on things. Really my goal was just to survive. Like I had no idea how hard it was going to be, how much was going to come in and all that. So that was like my plan.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, I envy a lot of your organization and, your plan. I haven't had like as much of a detailed plan, and in a lot of ways, that's what this first month has been like. Is like, I knew I could just kind of invest in myself, but I'm starting to like be surprised just how much the time slips away. Yeah. And how much like I set a schedule of like, well, I want to do a live stream every Friday. I want to start to make content, but now I also have to do this, and all the emails and video calls with people and potential brands or clients, things, it's all starting to add up. And so the time is slipping away.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Like I don't have time. Like my highest priority now is how do I get more time?
Yeah. Yeah. What are you doing to solve that?
Dude, I talking to these other content creators who are also designers, and they were like, have you ever thought about making like products, like digital products, like templates or something? And I was like, I thought about it, but and I know I should do it, but how is it going for you? And then they were like, it's amazing. It was half of my income last month. Wow. I was like, what? And that was like mind blowing to me. And then suddenly, they were like saying, yeah, and this creator does that, and this creator does that, and I'm like, it suddenly makes sense how all of you guys are making so much content and still doing projects, because you have a base level of like passive income that is covering your bills, and then you can be selective. You can spend half of the week working on content, like starting a podcast, like all of that stuff. And I have resolved that I'm gonna block out some time. There are things that I have shared with people that are like, this is like super helpful, like so valuable. I know that it would help people a lot, that I could turn into a product. It just like it takes time. It's like counterintuitive to devote time to doing something that you don't know if you're going to make money versus a project that is going to make money, but it's the same amount of work. But it was really eye-opening when I learned that from other creators. And so I think I'm going to try to do that. And then if I can have that time back, then I'll think about, honestly, it's like one step at a time. My goal was originally, let me just survive for a month. After I realized I can actually survive, I've been realizing, I actually need to learn also how to have a life and not like work all the time. And so that's my focus now.
Dang, that's smart. Yeah, are you thinking like templates or a course or anything? Like a lot of your audience is probably other designers or aspiring designers. Are you thinking about anything for those, Christian-led brands or churches or different products that would serve them? Or what are you thinking in total?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't know. Like maybe for my potential clients, it would be great to make something. I'm still thinking about it. Like I don't know for sure, but like I know, for example, I have a proposal. Proposals are usually decks, right? Well, I've been using a proposal that's a framer template, so it's responsive. Like people can, because usually what will happen is you'll send a proposal, the person will look at it on their phone, and then it'll be like a 16 by 9 PDF, so then they'll be like turning it horizontal and then zooming in to read everything, and then like they have to slide the page to like read the lines. I'm like, why don't we just make a website for every proposal, and then it's responsive, and then if you set it up properly in a framer CMS, you just fill out a form and then it populates all the information for you. I was like, doing that has made me close so many more deals. Like I was getting sales calls, I was really struggling to close the deals, but making a proposal that way has made me able to close like 90% of them, which has allowed me to raise my prices. So I know if I were to do this and I sell it cheaply, it'll profit people a lot, and so I think something like that would be great for fellow designers. But I haven't really thought about like, how do I maybe I can do like a design your own brand in a day, like bare bones type of course or something.
I mean, your proposal idea is super smart. Like, I think that's really genius to think of it within like a framer template, not only for any sort of web designer that's using it. It's like, it's within the tool you're already using. When you send it to them, it's going to look so much better. So they're going to be more willing to pay. And those clients are probably also going to get a taste,
Right.
Jose would buy it for sure. They'd get a taste of like what the website, what the brand identity, they get to see it more than just in a PDF. So that's really smart. But yeah, no, I've been thinking about stuff like that too. And mostly thinking like, all right, who of my audience has money? And if they don't have money, give them like cheap stuff. And a lot of my audience is like students and people that are young and learning. It's like, I don't want to pick their pockets too much. So I want to like give them free stuff, give them cheap stuff, whatever I can to help them. And then, thinking about the clients that are like brands, how can you package up maybe the service or like the actual deliverables, or package up the thinking behind it, or, things like that.
I've been thinking about like Patreon, where I do like deep dives into all the projects that I've done, client projects, like how I set things up in design software and the whole process and everything. Or I do like weekly Q&A. Like I don't honestly, like just trying to think of ways that are scalable. And part of that is also maybe I do less vertical videos than I do YouTube, because YouTube is infinitely scalable.
YouTube is hard though. You've done a bit of YouTube though, right?
I have done a little bit, yeah. It's interesting, I made a video on free fonts when I first uploaded it. Best free fonts for commercial use 2022.
Nice.
Now it's 2025. It says best free fonts for commercial use 2025. I just every year I just change the year. But it's like I'm consistently getting a lot of views on that one video because it's like SEO optimized.
Yeah.
I know that I can do it. I just feel like, vertical video is so hard to, I don't know if it's like my own mental delusion, but like it just seems like because my audience, I built up so much, I can't stop doing it.
Right.
And it's like I'm in a groove, and like long form videos are like, it's a lot more work. It's like so much more work. So I don't know, it's hard, but I'm thinking about all those things.
Yeah. And like just time check too. I know it's been over an hour, so let me know whenever you need to drop, but I'm just enjoying chatting.
No, I'm good
about all this. But yeah, YouTube too. Like I did a lot of Procreate animation tutorials.
Oh, interesting.
And that's what I did when I was started as a junior art director, and I still want to do stuff on the side. So I'd make like, here's how to animate a logo like this, or, it's all just like hand drawn, illustrated. And those videos were so great.
Dang.
But it's also just like you're kind of saying, they're SEO focused, or they succeed because they're a search term and people are searching for it. And I just struggled to find ways to either inject my personality or make it something that I really wanted to do consistently. And there's always the problem with any sort of like creative craft, making content about it, is you're often doing work twice. Like you make the thing, then you make the thing about the thing. And that's like so frustrating. Is like, oh, I gotta make a tutorial, but first I gotta figure out what I'm gonna make for that tutorial, make it, then make it again, then film it, and all that kind of stuff. So
and then you have to go back in the file and be like, so how did I actually do this? Like, I actually don't remember. It was just like messing around.
No, that was the big shift for me this last summer. Was Instagram is so efficient. Like it's
for sure,
short form in general. It's a very like, I don't know, probably the most value for your time sort of content right now.
Yeah.
And, I love YouTube and I want to do more, which is why I'm still doing this, but it just takes a lot, and that could shift too. But I'm just saying, I think you're smart with doing a lot of the short form stuff for sure.
Yeah, I definitely feel you get so much immediate benefit from doing it, and it takes less effort. And on the YouTube side, it's like you can't get that unless you go SEO heavy, but then you don't have the trust with the audience, like the relationship with the audience, because they're just there for the search term. So it's like, I know that it's a long-term game, and I just have to like be patient. I got to put in the hours and all that. But the hard part is right now, I need to be doing client work to make money. And so if I can just make like a couple digital products, kind of like hopefully supplement some of my income with short form video, then I can have some space to devote to that's kind of the hope, the goal. I guess we'll see how it actually plays out.
And for anyone who ends up watching this too, like, I think it's interesting even just like hearing us think through this kind of stuff. And it's like a lot of it is and feels like a transaction. Like obviously Instagram and how short form everything is, it's like, it feels more transactional. We want to be doing more like deep stuff on YouTube, but it's a lot of like, you're balancing your time and your energy and figuring out where to put it in a way that will have the most honest impact, and where everyone's trying to be honest and have integrity with it all. And so it's an interesting game, man. Dude, this has been fun.
Thank you for having me, bro.
We've only like really scratched the surface of like catching up and talking for over an hour, so I appreciate it. I'm sure you got to jump, but what's next? What's like the long-term vision for this whole thing, for being on your own?
Well, first immediate goal, replace my salary so I can have kids. That's the deal we made, is if I can replace my salary, the year that I replace my salary, we will start talking.
That's awesome.
That's the number one thing for me. And then secondly is like making sure I can be present with my kids while helping people. So I think I just need to figure out a way to have normal work-life balance. And then I guess it's like really selfish goals, like really personal goals. But I am hoping that as I pursue those things, I will find the overlap between, the things that impact my family and the things that impact my audience, and benefit both of them, equally. And I think all the things that we've been talking about, like all of those ways are, I think, to provide value, are, I think, the pathway there. That's the goal right now.
That's sweet. Well, I'm really excited for you, like especially the family stuff. That's what kicked me in the pants and made me like want to quit my job too. I was constantly getting texts from my wife of like memories that I was missing, as my kid was having a fun bath, or eating some crazy food or whatever, and it was like, man, I just wish I was at home right now. Even if I just have to like jump out and hear what they're laughing about, or hear what the racket out there is about. And I think you'll be surprised too just how much it will like make you very powerful, make you feel less constrained than you think, even though it will take so much time.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I am fully expecting that. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's great to hear. I mean, it's great to meet people who are doing what I want to do and have a family. And it's like encouraging that you can do both and thrive. That's great to see.
That's sweet. Well, I'm encouraged by everything you're doing too. Thanks so much. I'll just wrap it up. We'll end the live, end the podcast. This has been really fun. A few people joined, I'm sure, because I haven't been paying attention to anything in the chat or whatever. It's just been fun to hear you chat. So we'll get this live by Monday. Anyone who's listening, join every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern to chat about stuff, and maybe we'll get Edward back on the podcast soon to see how self-employment has been, and
I'm down.
we can compare notes, because I definitely have I'm constantly messaging different people like, hey, what did you charge this brand, or what are you doing for this, or yeah, have you gotten that framer template up yet?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So I'll end the live, and we'll catch everybody next time on the Toolbox podcast.